Oh, hello and welcome to What Are We Talking About with Jamie Jakes. I am him, and we are here to make you guys some money. And that is exactly what we did last week on the channel. I was 5-1 on the week, my only wrong bet being on the Packers. I did have the Cowboys minus 3.5, which was a lot of crisscross fire we had in the channel last week. If you want to get a review of that, we do have that clip. You can go back and watch it on the channel. Mr. James, speaking of my first guest on the evening, called Giants money line and Tommy DeVito. It's almost like the script writers had something to say about it. Mr. James, NFL Insider, how are you? Thank you for being on tonight, buddy.
Doing fantastic. Fun week last week. I'm extremely excited about the slate that we have coming up this weekend. I think everyone watching at home will be excited.
Yeah, I have a tasty gimmick for a Saturday teaser parlay, a 3-game teaser parlay back to back to make your Saturday a little bit spicier. And I have at least 6 games I am recommending a side of this week on the Sunday slate alone. So I'm feeling myself, probably going to make a massive mistake and overbet, but I just like too many of the games too much that I can't resist. Speaking of people I can't resist, Ryan Perio, thank you for being on the show. Happy to have you on as well. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well. Looking to get some action here for the holiday shopping, get some extra money here for the Christmas presents. They don't come cheap this time of year.
That's right. And yeah, let's try and make the audience a lot of money. Speaking of a lot of money, Mr. Andrew, he's made a lot of people money on this channel. Has been on and off the past couple of weeks. Happy to have you on, buddy.
Thank
How are
you.
you doing?
Good. Back from old Mexico where they didn't have any phone reception or satellite TV, but I'm good to be back.
Good. How was Mexico?
It was awesome. A lot of cool stuff. Can't talk about it. If you've seen Sicario, then you know what I did.
That's what I figured. And Mr. Most Days Off, Miles Francis, happy to have you on as well. And what is your brand there that you got underneath your caption there?
Oh,
NFL
I haven't changed
Outsider.
that in weeks, bro. That's been me from the get-go.
I thought it was something different recently. I guess I'm just now reading it. Anyways,
stoked to be here regardless, from the outside looking in as always. I'm feeling after my performance last week that all of my no-brainers tonight will be the opposite of what my gut tells me. So just to get back on the right track.
A reverse gimmick. You were 1-2 last week. I
did have to bounce early, yeah.
Yeah, you bounced early. You weren't a part of the conversation. I feel like when you're a part of the conversation, Miles, it really helps you select those no-brainers a little bit better. So I think that's what happened there. You were 1-0 on the picks that you were a part of the conversation on. So
got all of that.
That's like those Amazon stats, right? Whatever we can make them say, we will get them to say it. Okay, going on to our Thursday night football game. You know, it's going to be a game that not many people are going to be excited about. It's going to be a game that's probably going to be one of the least viewed on our channel for a live stream. But guess what? We're excited to do it. And it's not just for the clips that do much better than the actual live stream. It's because we love these football teams, okay? Here's me convincing you to watch this game. First of all, Thursday night, you're obligated to. This NFL season, I don't care if it's week 15. The Raiders have a guy named Max Crosby. He's known as the Condor because when he tackles people, he has such a big wingspan. He looks like he's like an 8-foot-long bird attacking its prey, and it's really fun to watch. He has 13.5 sacks this season, which is tied for third. There's a big cluster of guys in third place for that sack competition. I believe Khalil Mack is in first place with 15. So all the guys are in the running, and you might get to see Max Crosby do it against a backup quarterback for the Chargers. Today it was announced, we are recording this on Tuesday night, Justin Herbert is out for the season. He broke his finger. Sounds like Easton Stick is going to come in. I don't think it's going to be the rookie, just reading the tea leaves here. Insider James, do you have any inside knowledge on that? You don't have many ties to the Texas Christian University, so I can't imagine you would know. But go ahead, James.
Phillip Rivers is coming out of retirement.
Okay.
It's the
You
year
son
of
of a
just
bitch.
He
the
missed his chance with the
renaissance.
Niners in the playoffs, and now he's coming back.
QB renaissance, baby.
So Easton Stick, I believe, will be the starter. And listen to this guy. 49-3 record as a starter for North Dakota State. Still holds the record for most wins by a starting quarterback in NCAA Division I FCS history. All right? If that doesn't get you excited to watch this football game, I do not know what will. Let's see what the Las Vegas thinks of the game. They are saying the Raiders are 3-point favorites at home, a low over-under of 34. I'm really excited to see this game, you guys, and I think these numbers are just spot on. James, what do you think about the game?
Speaking of stats that don't matter, I'm 89-3 with my created quarterback. So if we want to stats that won't matter. I think this game is a coin flip. This Charger team put 6 points up against the Patriots. This Raiders team put up 0 against the Vikings. Chargers have a better defense than the Vikings. They can figure out how to score 1 or 2 touchdowns. They should be able to take it. So I'm taking Chargers at plus 140 Thursday night.
Okay, so that's your first bet of the podcast. Chargers at plus 140. This is just the random sports book that we use because it looks nice for the segment. I'm sure you can find 140 or better out in the market right now as we are recording. So that will be our first money line recommendation. I don't mind it. I just kind of like Max Crosby too much, and he might take the game over. Ryan Perry, what are your thoughts on the game?
I'm gonna have to pass on this game. There's too many things that have gone wrong with both of these teams to really put any money on this game. And I don't think Brandon Staley can drive stick. So I think it's going to be just a low scoring. I would say Chargers win 10-3. I think it's going to be another ugly offensive outing. Antonio Pierce is a good coach, but I don't know if he's going to be able to fix this offense, especially against a Charger defense that's really been kind of solid the last couple weeks.
So Ryan Perry kind of recommending maybe take a peek at the under, lean in that direction. Andrew, where are you leaning, buddy?
Well, we also can't forget that Josh Jacobs looks like he's trending towards missing this game with a quad injury. I'm not sure what exactly it is, but it didn't look good when he walked off the field on Sunday. I like the under for this game. You have an underachieving Raiders offense. You have a Chargers offense that's just dropping like flies with a ghost of Eckler, this stick kid, and Brandon Staley literally like packing his bags as he's trying to coach professional football. So yeah, give me the under. The last time these two teams played, I believe Khalil Mack had 5 sacks. He's probably going to have another 5 sacks again. I mean, Aiden O'Connell is just not that guy. He's not that dude. He's about to be delivering my DoorDash in 2 years. So yeah, give me that under.
At least he'll still be working.
Good point.
Go ahead, Miles. What do you think?
I really don't like the anything too heavy on this game for a lot of the reasons that Andrew just pointed out. I mean, for one, Josh Jacobs not being there when you're playing with a questionable quarterback to begin with, not being able to fall back on your dominant run game. You still have Devontae Adams sitting out there, but no one seems to be able to get the ball into his possession consistently. And if you can't do that, you can't win football games. So I don't really recommend anything. But I like both the money line and the under if I was forced to.
Brilliant, Miles. Moving on to Saturday. We have 3 football games to watch on Saturday, and I'm going to recommend a tasty little 3-way parlay on this slate that I'm really excited about. It'll be a teaser, not to spoil anything. First game that we are going to cover, however, is the Minnesota Vikings at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Vikings are currently the 6th seed in the NFC, so if the season ended right now, they would be going to the playoffs, despite them looking rather horrendous last week in a win, a 3-0 win indoors, which I think is the first time that's ever happened in NFL history. They've had 3-1 scores before, but they've all been outdoors in a torrential downpour, bad wind situation. So this was indoors, climate-controlled environment, and there was 3 points scored in the whole game, which isn't great. But what also isn't great is not having Joe Burrow on your team. The backup, Jake Browning, has been looking pretty darn good as of late. The Bengals are on a 2-game win streak, and Jake is averaging 285 yards per game, and he's got 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in his little run here as a starting quarterback for the Bengals. Vegas is thinking that this game is going to be won by the Bengals by 3.5 points, and the over-under is set at 39, which will be the subject, my first part of my 3-game Saturday teaser. I'm going to take the Vikings over, and I'm going to tease it down to 33 points. So I'm going to get 3 points on that teaser, tease the over down to 33 points, because I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Jake Browning has proven to me that he can score football points. I think this line is a little bit of an overreaction to last week, to the 3-0 game. We got a new starting quarterback, probably be Nick Mullins for the Vikings here, which, I mean, some people might say is good or bad. I would say it's good, because if he does throw a lot of picks, then that means the Bengals are going to capitalize and score quickly. And that's really what you need to see, is touchdowns scored quickly if you're getting an over. So that's why I'm going to take that as my first angle. James, what do you think on this game?
Yeah, Jake Browning, the last quarterback to have led Washington to the college football playoff, looking pretty decent. But we all know what happened to Washington once they made the playoffs. They crumbled. And I don't think Jake Browning is very good in high-pressure games. So I have taken the Minnesota Vikings. I think that the Bengals' hot flash is finished, and I like the Vikings.
So that's Vikings money line, your second positive money line out of James. He's full of those, and I don't mind it. I'll say that, but I'm not convinced that Jake Browning isn't like actually good at football. So that's the only thing that's keeping me off of it. Ryan Perry, what are your thoughts on the game?
Give me the Bengals. They've looked that their wins have not their wins have not been fluky. They've taken basically a Jacksonville Jaguar team that's leading in the playoffs, and then they went to Indianapolis, who was also in the playoffs, and handily beat them. It wasn't like it was an overtime against the Jaguars. They had them down 34-14, and one of those 14 from the Colts was a pick six thrown by Browning. So I'm going to take the Bengals. I'd also lean towards the over. I think this is going to be more points than people think is going to happen. I think, again, having Josh Dobbs not anywhere near the starting quarterback position for Minnesota is going to do wonders for their point total. But I still think the Bengals will pull this out.
So that's a crossfire between James and Ryan, the first 2 analysts on this show, who I would consider are the more, I don't know what the right word is, analytical brains on the channel.
We are
Andrew. We're the pretty people. Congratulations, man. We got the sweeter roll.
Well, you guys are
with your shampooed hair.
You guys are the interpersonal feeling moods, feeling vibes of the team. And I believe a little bit X's and O's, got good eyes for good athletes is I think where you two excel, which is a little bit different. And then James just cheats because he has a bunch of text messages from current NFL players. Anyways, Andrew, what are your thoughts on this game?
I love Minnesota this week. I'm going to put this down as my lock, one of my locks of the week.
Here we go.
I love Minnesota. Brian Flores coming in is going to blitz, disguise, confuse the shit out of Jake Browning. And you have Nick Mullins stepping in, who hopefully will not be throwing hospital balls to Justin Jefferson, who had a limited practice today. I'm still salty about it. 13 snaps he played while I hoarded this guy for 9 weeks in my prison wallet. I mean, IR, but you know what I'm saying. I'm just super salty about that. But I think the Bengals have fed on some soft defenses, teams that just defensively are not that creative. They're going to get the heat from Flores because this run that the Vikings have been on have really been led by their defense, a real reconnaissance, a renaissance.
Excuse me.
So there we go. So we got 2 bets on the Vikings. Lock of the week for Andrew. That sounds like a gimmick that will be repeated again in future episodes. Excited to see how the locks of the week go. Mr. Miles, what are your thoughts on this game?
I just don't believe in the Bengals or Jake Browning as much as you and Ryan seem to. Even with Joe Burrow, they seem to be very inconsistent at best throughout the season. I understand the Vikings just came off of a very abysmal game, but I see this being a bounce back week for the Minnesota Vikings. I really like that money line because I think that there's a good chance they are going to come out and show out. And I just don't see what you see in Browning, to be honest.
Okay, so that is another one against Jake Browning and on the Minnesota Vikings. A lot of crossfire, and I'm glad I kept myself clear of it. I'm going to take the sideline on this one and just hope for a lot of points, or at least enough points to keep me alive to the 3:30 game, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Indianapolis Colts. The game is in Indianapolis. I have here the Steelers are currently the 6th seed in the AFC. So again, another surprising team that's for some reason still alive and currently in the playoffs. Trubisky averaged 5.4 yards attempt with Kenny Pickett being out. Kenny Pickett on the season, by the way, 6.4 yards per attempt. So a little bit of a step back from Kenny Pickett, who had Matt Canada as his offensive coordinator for most of the season. So not good so far out of MVP Mitch, Nickelodeon's Most Valuable Player Award winner, Mitch Trubisky in Pittsburgh. The Colts are also currently in the playoffs. They would be the 7th seed in the AFC if it all ended today. Minshew, by the way, is averaging 6.7 yards per attempt. He's got 11 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. So kind of up and down for him. Vegas, the gambling lines have it Colts -2.5. We just saw the Pittsburgh Steelers really suck last week and look totally pathetic. And what do we say? Whenever that happens, a man gets to work, Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, and figures out a way to make something happen next week. And for that reason, I'm going to take a long teaser or an advantage teaser and take 2.5 up to 8.5 and combine it with my first over 33.5, taking the Pittsburgh Steelers here up to 8.5 on the second leg of my 3-part Saturday guaranteed to hit teaser. James, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a big bounce back week for the Steelers. Mike Tomlin, not the man to mess around. You might see him out there on special teams again making plays. I've definitely got the Steelers in this one. I think for sure they bounce this week against a Colts team that I'm much lower on than I am with the Steelers. Both still surprised that they might make the playoff. But if I had to pick one of the two, it would be the Steelers, and I'll take that plus.
So it feels like you and I on a lot of these are pretty simpatico on a day where both of us came in feeling very good about this slate for whatever reason compared to past slates. So that's interesting, and I don't know how to feel about it, James. Ryan,
could be
what
great,
do you think?
Could be horrible.
Could be horrible. Could be also mediocre. So I guess we'll see. Ryan Perio, what are your thoughts on this game?
I'm also leaning the Steelers. I just think without Jonathan Taylor in that backfield that Zach Moss has kind of lost a little steam being the lead back. He's not really getting the yards that he did like the first couple of weeks, like when he had AR-15 Anthony Richardson back there with him. I think it was a surprise running back, and now that people are actually keying on him, he's not productive. So I think the Colts have just run out of juice until Jonathan Taylor gets back in that backfield. So give me the Steelers and their defense and the money line.
So that's another bet on Mike Tomlin, bounce back. We've seen it so many times. He's becoming a little bit too predictable for us gamblers at
Blame
home.
Canada. Could quote South Park the movie.
Hell yeah, dude.
Hey, Andrew, what are your thoughts on the game?
Do we know if TJ Watt's playing this game? I think last time I heard he was in concussion protocol.
I believe TJ Watt is expected to play concussion. This is Tuesday, so we're only going to be able to speculate. Reviewing TJ Watt concussion protocol. So it's up in the air. We'll say here. We try to speculate a little bit on injuries sometimes on the channel. It's really hard to tell on Tuesday night is when we record. So
my gut tells me I need to roll Pittsburgh here because of the Tomlin rule. However, my eyes tell me this team feels like they're on the verge of a mutiny. They seem very unhappy. They're just a very unhappy team. Like they hate.
They live in Pittsburgh, bro. Like
that's also true. That's also true.
I was gonna say it feels like that's kind of been the MO for the Pittsburgh Steelers like forever. And they'll look horrible, and their body language will look like shit. And then Mike Tomlin will just get the boys going on a Week 15 game that's somehow meaningful for the organization because they've just willed this team to a substantial playoff position currently, and here we are. So I don't know. That's how I feel about it. Go ahead, Andrew.
I'm thinking I'm going to do a stay away because I just don't know. It's too much uncertainty. My gut really tells me I need to take the Colts here because I feel like the whole world is going to jump on Pittsburgh in the 2.5. It feels trappy, which means I need to take the Colts. Yeah, I know they're at home. It's only 2.5, but it feels trappy to me. So
okay. So that's a gut lean for Andrew, the first gut lean recommendation out of him this week. Miles, what do you think?
I think the most consensus we've had on this podcast so far is that both the Indianapolis Colts and the Pittsburgh Steelers kind of suck this year. And that's why I think that the smart money is on the under 42. I think that the Mike Tomlins will find a way to win. I just don't think it's going to take a lot. And there's why I think 42 points is not going to happen during this game.
Okay. I kind of like that, Miles. I like that you looking at that, surprisingly a little bit high, maybe 3 points high than I was expecting going into it. I love that recommendation out of you, Mr. Most Days Off. Moving on to the third part of our leg, the Saturday triple parlay teaser. The Denver Broncos are going into Detroit, and they're playing the Lions. Lions are still currently the 3 seed in the NFC, and they have a pretty solid hold of the division after the Packers lose to Tommy DeVito and the Giants on Monday. Detroit has been giving up 24.2 points per game this season, which is 8th worst in the NFL. And that's kind of been the story of this Lions roster over the past couple of years, has been the defense and lack of efficiency on that part of the football. The Broncos, however, are 7-6, still in the hunt in the AFC. The Broncos' last 7 games: win over the Packers, win over the Chiefs, win over the Bills, win over the Vikings, win over the Browns, lost to CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, and the Texans, and beat the LA Chargers. They are on quite the tear. The Lions are sliding significantly, but they are still a superior team, but not 5-point superior. So that's why for the third part of my leg, I'm teasing the Broncos to keep it somewhat close, up to 11 against the Detroit Lions. I'm taking the Steelers up to 8.5, and I am taking the Vikings and the Cincinnati Bengals team or total game over 33 in my Saturday triple teaser. James, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I think I've been very impressed with what the Broncos have done as of recent. I would put this line at probably a plus 170 if I was making the line. So I like 200. Once again, the Denver Broncos have been my biggest money line winner on the year. Hit them twice, so why not thrice? Let's go Denver Broncos, and let's see if this team can really finish into the playoffs. I think they're going to pull out a lot of stops for this game. I think that secondary is looking fantastic, and if you can just key in on the run, it could be pretty good game for the Broncos, and I think they can definitely pull it out.
So that's us agreeing again on this slate. maybe we're just talking too much with each other, or maybe we're onto something this week. I cannot wait to find out. Ryan, what do you think about this game?
I'm taking the Broncos, but not to win, but I'm taking them +5. I think
Okay.
I think the game will. I think the Detroit can win this game, but I don't think it'll be by a touchdown. I think this is going to be a close game. I think Jared Goff and that receiving core is really trying to figure it out. It's been not ideal for them the last couple of weeks since Thanksgiving. It seems like either something's been found on film or there's something going on, because it just seems like that they just seem like a totally different offense, or defenses have just keyed on something and they haven't been able to figure out what it is. But it just seems like it's just a massive turnovers and just poor decision making. I don't know if it's something's been shown and they're just reeling, trying to figure out what they're keying away to the defense. But give me the Broncos at +5. I think even if the Detroit wins, I don't think they'll win big. I think Denver will cover.
Yeah, be a close game. I think this is the first time I'm betting against Dan Campbell and the Lions this season. And I think last week was my first time betting on the Cowboys. I think the week before that, the first time I was betting on the Steelers in my whole career. And I think when I bet on a team for the first time, the football gods shine upon me for spreading out my gambling.
Watch those kneecaps around Dan Campbell.
Yeah, I'm not going to say shit around him. I believe it's Miles' turn. What do you think about on this game, buddy?
I hear a lot of what you guys are saying about the Denver Broncos, and I see it and I believe it. It's been incredible watching how much they've turned around since midseason. This was the team that took like 70 points from the Miami Dolphins back in like week 3 or whatever it was. They've been incredible in the second half. But Jared Goff is a different human being when he plays in Detroit than when he plays on the road. And that just is facts across the board. If you look at their schedule, I think they've only lost like twice at home this season. And this feels like after a very embarrassing week for Jared Goff, playing against the Chicago Bears in Chicago and doing a very poor job of it. I really feel like this is going to be hey, we're still competing. We're still at the top of this division. We're still playoff bound. I feel like this is a Jared Goff week coming back. And while I think it's going to be a good game, even maybe to the point that I feel like maybe we should be looking at that over as well, I like the Lions on this this game.
Wow, that's very, very interesting. And that's what I'm saying. These are the Miles and Andrew. These are the vibe guys. These are the guys that are figuring out emotionally where the team is.
Hard about it for it to be a no-brainer, because there's a lot of things that went into consideration on that. But it really does feel Jared Goffy to me.
When you always have no-brainers when it's all feelings.
Yeah. Speaking with your heart. Moving on to the Sunday slate, noon on.
Wait, we got Andrew. We got to get to.
Oh, I didn't say Andrew. Okay, go ahead, Andrew.
I love the Lions this week. This is a kitchen sink game. They're going to throw everything at the Broncos. I expect at least one flea flicker, or maybe a wide receiver pass. I also expect the running back, the Pony Express of Gibbs and Montgomery, to run it hard and heavy against the Broncos. This line, again, it feels off. Are the Broncos should they really be a 5-point dog? No. It should be closer by 4, if not 3.5. But the number is thrown out there to grab money on the Broncos. I like the Lions here.
Okay, so you think the line should be 3.5 for the Broncos, but you're still taking the Lions?
Yeah, because I'm like, to me, it's like, hey, it's eye candy. Come, look at these big ass titties. I mean, the Broncos, touch them. But really,
wait, what type of safari have you been going on? Because it does not look that interesting to me.
Don't know if that's a safari or a bad part of town.
Where the hell else are you going to see a lion, my dude?
I'm glad we got to you, Mr. Andrew. That was a pretty interesting take on this line. And so we got 2 on the Lions. I think we got 3 on the Broncos. So that's a big crossfire one for us to end that Saturday slate. Moving on to Sunday, we got the Kansas City Chiefs and the New England Patriots. The game will be in New England. The Chiefs are 8-5 in third in the AFC. They're kind of comparable, funny enough, to the Detroit Lions. I don't think there's ever been a time that I can remember in recent history, at least, that you could fairly compare where the Chiefs and the Lions are at this part of the season for sure. We saw the Lions take the Chiefs out minus Travis Kelce and Chris Jones on opening night. So a lot of parallels here. There are two teams that are in third place in their conference, and they are sliding down. 2-game losing streak here for the Chiefs. The big question being, are they for real, or are they this is an off year for Kansas City? Have too many problems offensively to overcome by one man, Patrick Mahomes. The Patriots, on the other hand, there are two teams mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. The Patriots are one of those teams. So they are competing for draft position. They have their own first overall draft pick. I don't think Bill Belichick will be deciding that draft pick. Either way, the Patriots are 9.5-point underdogs at home. The over-under is relatively low at 37 points. I have no leanings on this game. I think that number is pretty darn accurate. James, what are your thoughts?
Well, as we saw, the Chiefs are not good with procedural penalties. And who is really good at exploiting procedural penalties to his advantage? It's Bill Belichick. And so, if there was... no, I'm just kidding. I'm not touching it.
In a way.
I'm not touching it. But if you're a degenerate, I would lean.
If you absolutely have to gamble it, we're leaning towards the Patriots, I guess. Yeah, I don't mind that. Ryan Perry, what do you think?
I think this is. I feel like if the Patriots want to move on from Bill Belichick, he has basically done everything as possible to make that as seamless as possible, because he's gotten rid of anybody under his regime, coaching and player wise. He's left them basically the number 2 overall pick, unless the Panthers somehow turn it around and get 2 wins. I just think that, like, I didn't think it at first, but the more I watch these games, it just seems like he's just basically just cleaning out his desk, like literally and figuratively speaking, and is just there. And so I'm staying away from this. I think the Chiefs will win. I don't think they'll win. I don't think they'll go over 37. I think it'll be 3 or 4 touchdowns, because those receivers can't be trusted outside of Rashee Rice, who still has his own drops on his own right, but I just don't see them scoring a lot of points in this game. But I don't see the Patriots beating the Chiefs.
Yeah, I would love to see Rashee Rice, SMU rookie. Would love to see him develop into a true number 1, and he's kind of thrust into that position just based on how bad that Chiefs wide receiver room is. Andrew, what are your thoughts on the game?
You know, you would think after a game like last week, the Chiefs would come out, want to play hard, run up the score, just try to prove the world, look, we do have wide receivers that can catch. But then I see if they employ people like MVS, Justin Watson, and Kadarius Toney, who might be the most intellectually deficient person playing professional football. I mean, honestly, that guy's a fucking moron. Get him out of there. Seriously, week after week. I mean, he does shit like this all the time. Like running wrong routes, just lining off sides, dropping balls, causing pick sixes. I don't know. I don't want to touch this game. I don't want to touch that guy. So,
I mean, he's literally lost in the first game of the season, and then this game. By literally that one pass, he was wide open. He just literally.
And I feel like he has cost gamblers just all kinds of money by causing, the over-unders being affected by his drops, his 2 yards per reception. Like, you know what? Fuck that guy.
I love it. I love the anger for Kadarius Toney. Why
couldn't it be him instead of Justin Jefferson? Is what Andrew said.
Oh, could you imagine? Kadarius Toney, I've not been a big fan of his. Maybe I've said some things that Andrew may have recently said on the channel in the comfort of my own household when there's no cameras running. So I respect you putting your name behind it, Mr. Andrew, and putting it out there. Mr. Most Days Off, Miles, what do you think?
Well, I heard that after this last weekend, the only therapy appointment that Patrick Mahomes was able to schedule was this Sunday at noon. So if that holds and he doesn't play, I really like New England. Outside of that, I would avoid gambling on this one. It's just two teams that are in really weird places, kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. I will say that listening to Ryan talk about Bill Belichick cleaning out his desk, now I just want to like an image of Bill Belichick with like a cardboard box full of like deflated footballs and like spy cameras. And like he's arguing with the front office if he gets to keep his office chair or not, like on the 50-yard line. I think that would be a more entertaining segment than any football that comes out of this game.
Yeah, those are two brilliant takes out of Miles and Andrew. Not a fun game to, cover, but fun when you guys are around. Moving on, speaking of games that aren't fun to cover, the New York Jets, just kidding, this one's exciting, and the Miami Dolphins. The Jets win against the Texans after taking out CJ Stroud. Tank Dell was also inactive. It was a weather game. Poncho Watch was in full effect, which is so funny now. When we're allowed to sell merch on the channel, that'll definitely be the first thing that we sell is Poncho Watch ponchos. Because with the cameras nowadays, you can't tell just watching, even on a 75-inch TV, if it's raining or not until they go to alternate views when they're closer to the players, because you can kind of the camera doesn't focus on it can't focus on the players themselves.
It like blocks it out, which is a benefit for watching on the bigger picture, but it's weird if you're trying to get an idea of what the weather's like in the stadium.
Exactly. So good productions will go to lower shots, or like they'll take looks at a commercial break at like the lights at the stadium if it's dark out or whatever. So some productions will do it, but when worst comes to worst, you just count the ponchos. And I thought the weather was getting better in the second half. It wasn't. It was just a really crummy game. New York Jets and the Texans, which is really, really ironic because it was the second time this Jets team scored 30 points. I don't know if you guys saw this game at all, or if you guys were paying attention, or if you guys saw even like the highlights of this one. Zach Wilson, I don't know. I don't know if this is any indication towards the future, but if it is, he is, going to be an all-pro in no time. He looked you just like watch so many of these throws, like, what the? That's like, where did that come from? He was like whipping it sidearm and stuff. He had a new release that he just like unveiled when it was raining. Didn't make any sense. Was 27 for 36, 301 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And the Jets still need to win out to keep the hopes of seeing Aaron Rodgers back on the field alive. They have 8 losses.
The week that they didn't start, Zach just did mushrooms with Aaron Rodgers, and it really opened up some vision for him on the field. Now he's seeing things from a whole different perspective. It's going to be a different season for the Jets moving forward.
That makes sense. They went on a vision quest with each other. That's why he had to be benched, so he could emerge, rise from the ashes of Phoenix to keep this team alive for Aaron Rodgers and his repairing Achilles. I did see the interview with McAfee and Aaron. Apparently, Aaron is doing 7-on-7s with like the practice squad guys, so not quite ready. I predicted week 15 a while ago. Not looking like he's going to be back this week. Now I'm thinking closer to week 17.
Why would you sit Zach when he's this hot, though? I mean, that just doesn't make any sense.
I just want to see Aaron come back, even if it is meaningless games. I want to see what it looks like on a recently repaired Achilles. On the other side of the football, the Dolphins are still the 2 seed in the AFC after coming off of a historic collapse. It was like the first time that a team was trailing 14 points that late in the game since the 70s and come back in that time frame. Will Levis and the Titans, looked good against this Dolphins team. Dolphins also lose potentially a Pro Bowl center with an ACL. That's apparently really, really bad, according to AQ Shipley, who knows a lot more about offensive linemen than I do. So I'm going to defer to him on that one. The gambling lines have it, the Dolphins being a 9-point favorite at home. I have no thoughts on this game gambling-wise. James, what about you?
As somebody who watched the entire Houston Texans versus New York Jets game, I can tell you that Zach Wilson did not look good in the first half. It looked great in the second. Shout out the NFL TV map for that being the only game available at noon.
Yeah, same.
Dang. I'm very tempted at 370. I don't quite understand how the Patriots can be 9.5 and plus 340, and then the Jets are plus 9 and 370. That just tells you how this is all made up, and the points don't matter. So I'm really tempted by that. I'm really tempted by that. I'm not going to touch it. But dear God, if that hits 400, I'm slammed.
Okay. So that is a bet that if it does hit 400, we're going to get Jets money line over there in Miami. Interesting out of James. Okay, Ryan, what do you think?
Give me the Jets. I, as another person that watched the whole game as a Texans fan, that was like watching the zero drill, which is an old NFL practice where the quarterback would stand back there with no receivers, no tight ends, no running backs to throw to, and just get blitz, and then he would just have to stay alive, just basically in the pocket. That's what CJ Stroud looked like on every single snap. Their defense is night and day above Tennessee's, and Tua Tagovailoa struggled against Tennessee's defense. And so I believe, especially if Tyreek Hill has any kind of lingering effects on that knee to where he is not playing, I would jump all over this Jets money line right now because as more injuries and stuff come out, that money line's probably going to shrink a little. My guess is that there's going to probably be some things that for the Dolphin side that make it less, go down maybe 350. But I would take the Jets money line because I think they played an outstanding game. Zach Wilson, I think, threw a couple prayers out there that just kind of got to Breece Hall just good enough. I felt like the Texans defense tried to get to him, and that's something I saw with the Dolphins and Will Levis, is their defense tried to get Will Levis on the ground. They couldn't do it, and Will Levis was able to escape and make a play. And I think that's exactly what Zach Wilson, the formula is going to be for Zach Wilson this week.
Okay, so you guys are gambling on Zach Wilson just all of a sudden being awesome at football.
I'm gambling on that defense stifling Tua.
I'm not quite there yet, but they do seem to be fighting last breaths. They know they need to win out to get Aaron Rodgers back on the field, which I assume they want to see as well. Andrew, what do you think?
This is going to be another lock of the week. I am taking the Miami Dolphins.
Wow.
You guys seem to forget the Jets cannot stop the run, and the Dolphins have a 1-2 punch of two track stars. Let's go back to the Black Friday game. I mean, the Dolphins beat them up pretty good, but Raheem Mostert tore them up. And so did Jeff Wilson. He had a pretty good game too. Now that Achane's back, I'm predicting a big game out of him. This is going to be fantasy playoffs for some of us. If you have Achane stock, cash it in because I think he's going to go off this week.
Okay, so that sounds like a start of the week out of Andrew. Start Achane for the Dolphins for fantasy football purposes, and on top of it, bet the Dolphins -9. They did just lose their center, like I said, which makes me very, very nervous about that. Centers are very integral part of setting up run blocking schemes oftentimes, especially in a complex offense.
I will say this: with this offensive line has missed Teron Armstead. They've lost Hunt. Most of their offensive line have been out for most of the season. If there's any coach besides Shanahan that can scheme around that, it's going to be Mike McDaniels. You're going to see a lot of stuff on the outside, not a lot of power stuff, probably just different looks to get the defense's eyes to shift before they move the other direction. They have just so much speed. What they take to the outside against the Jets, I think it's going to be pretty effective.
Okay. Yeah, I'm running through in my head too, like the matchups running, stopping the run wise for the Jets, and a lot of their big wins have been against teams that have really struggled to run the football this season. Yeah. Their strength definitely is in their secondary, so I definitely see where you're coming from there. Brilliant take out of you, Mr. Andrew. Miles, what do you think, buddy?
I think it's really hard to make a statement on this game until you get actual word back on what's going on with Tyreek Hill. We both were talking about it yesterday. There is some weird stuff happening in that game. Apparently, it was his ankle. He said in the press conference after the game that he thought he broke it, like when he first got off the field, and then he's like, "All right, I think I'm good." He's a tough dude. He plays through injuries. He will try to overcome what he can, but I feel until we get actual word on that, it's hard to make a real strong call. I do actually, for a couple of reasons, mostly being the Jets defense has been incredible this year. The Jets defense until recently had outscored the Jets offense, which is wild. I think taking the Jets money line right now might be worth it, just in the fact that if they do find out that Tyreek isn't going to be playing, that will change.
Oh yeah, that would move the line. I wouldn't be surprised if that moved all the way down to like 6.5, 2.5 points, maybe 3 if Tyreek came in. So if you, I'm gonna go out on a limb here on Tuesday night and say Tyreek plays. Really weird situation at the time. Didn't see him go in the medical tent. If he thought he broke it, why didn't he go get an X-ray? He didn't.
He is apparently getting X-rays today, is what I read this afternoon.
Yeah, they'll be negative. Came back and played. He looked fine. Like, I guess we've seen Derrick Henry come back from a broken foot and play through it, but he didn't look like that.
I also think Mike McDaniel, who, as I've mentioned many, many times, have a huge man crush on this dude. Absolutely think he's incredible. He's my favorite coach by far. I also have seen through him, though, he seems like the type of coach that really has that big picture on his mind. And I could easily see him looking at the results of that X-ray and just seeing what happened during the game and being like, you know what, we're going to give this. We don't need this win. We have a decent chance of winning without him. We're going to let our stud rest up a little bit so that we'll have him in the playoffs, which we're for sure making at this point.
Yeah. I mean, you're in the AFC. First place in the AFC is Baltimore Ravens. They just lost Mark Andrews, which we'll get to that in a little bit. But you're clawing for first place in the conference because that gets you the only bye now, the way the restructuring of the playoffs has gone over the past few years. So I think you're right, Miles, by the way. I think that is kind of what was going through McDaniel's head. At the same time, I don't know if I like it. I would have liked to see him, and I'm not even have stake. I don't even have fantasy football stake in Tyreek Hill.
That's your wrestling background, dude. You're the type of dude that gets a quad ripped off your leg, and you're like, I can go in, coach. I'll pin him with my other foot.
According to Twitter, he's got a grade 1 high ankle sprain is what the diagnosis is on Tyreek Hill.
He'll play 100%. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, high ankles are either 0 weeks or 3 weeks. And if he came back and played, finished the game on it, he'll play. There's no way he doesn't play, in my opinion. We are guessing Tuesday night here.
Be a great parlay with him and Sauce Gardner, though. That'd be some interesting action there during the game.
Tyreek and Sauce, an interesting parlay in that. What do you mean? One will get an interception, one will get a touchdown.
Yeah. What'll be Tyreek's yardage totals versus Sauce and things like that.
I would love to see that. I guess we'll see. Moving on to a game I'm genuinely excited about, and I'm not even joking about it. The Giants are going into New Orleans, and they are going to go ahead and play the Saints in a game of football. Tommy DeVito. I think tomorrow I'm going to do an entire separate episode on Tommy DeVito because after his performance this week, it made me have a lot of respect for the man. And I kind of did a deep dive into him. Today I had a lot of extra time on my hands. So I looked into the history of Tommy DeVito and I learned a lot of fun things. He is averaging 6.8 yards an attempt. He has 8 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Daniel Jones, by the way, 5.7 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions before getting hurt this season. That was kind of startling for me to read. What I kind of think is happening here is Dable, who was like the best coach in the NFL in the preseason, and then the team just sucked, and everyone's like, oh, Dable stinks now. I think Dable is kind of figuring out how to massage some good performances out of this football team, despite their roster being pretty bad. Saints recently snapped a 3-game losing streak against the Panthers, who are bad. Panthers are really bad. The other, the Patriots and the Panthers, 2 teams mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. The only 2 teams here after week 14 going into week 15. And I'll be interested to see what James thinks about this one because he called the Giants money line at around plus 300 last week, depending on when you picked it up. Because I love, after doing some research on DeVito and after seeing Dable getting the guys to perform better for him, I love the Giants plus 6 And hey, James, I also love the Giants money line at plus 215. What do you think about this game?
Oh man, I think I'm going to go to St. Rocco's down in the Trinity Grove area and just order 6 chicken cutlets and watch this game. I think that would be fun. I don't want to disappoint you, but unfortunately, I have not bet on the Giants money line. I think this might be the week that he gets figured out on the road. I hope I am wrong, but for my sake, I kind of want them to lose this week so I can keep betting Giants money. I just don't know about this. I feel like this team has been a lot better at home. I'm not 100% sure on how they do on the road. This is a crossfire for us on a big weekend. I don't have a bet on this yet.
Okay, so Tommy DeVito, the story on this kid, small high school in New York. He goes and plays for Syracuse for a while. He does great, has a season-ending leg injury, and then the team is like, hey, pal, get the fuck out of town. We got a new quarterback who never amounted to anything. DeVito transfers to the Fighting Illini, Illinois, and wins 8 games. They were 8-5 with him at quarterback. I couldn't find any sack records for him, but he had a total of like 14 yards, but he also had like 8 rushing touchdowns. So I can only assume he was getting put under a lot of pressure playing for Illinois. It was their first 8-win season for the program since they won 9 games in 2007. So almost 20 years, this man willed this team to some good games. He had a bad combine. He ran a 4.6, and obviously his feet is one of his most important talents that he has. So he didn't shine at the combine, and for that reason, he went undrafted. And this is the first time we're seeing him get an opportunity. So that is why I believe in DeVito, James. Ryan, what do you think?
St. Tommy. That's gonna be his new saint name, St. Tommy. Give me the Giants, especially with that money line. I think that they have a great game plan. They did a lot of misdirection receiving. Wan'Dale Robinson had an exceptional game, kind of coming out on wheel routes and just kind of lots of exotic motion. I thought Giants played a heck of a game against the Green Bay Packer team that people were saying looked like a playoff team coming into that game. And maybe that's what the Packers thought too. And they just thought that this was going to be a look-ahead game, and they just got kind of taken to school there by DeVito with maybe the most gutsy down at the one run we've seen from a quarterback in a good while. That last run there.
Yeah, but I'm a fan of DeVito, and he runs pretty hard, and he's fast. You know, you would never see him play in the NFL and be like, oh, that guy's a 4.6 guy, because he looks like a low 4.5, mid 4.5 guy, which is pretty fast for a quarterback in the NFL. Andrew, what do you think?
I want to take DeVito, but I feel like it's an overreaction, right? I mean, the Saints are better than the Giants across the board, except that quarterback. I'm not going to lie, Derek Carr sucks, man. That guy is really on his last leg. I'm just going to stay away from this. I really am. Like, 6 seems like a lot for the Saints to cover, but also at the same time, like, in the Superdome, on the road, off a short week, big family dinners on Tuesday and Wednesday. Yeah, I'll probably stay away from this.
Okay, so a little food coma predicted out of you. He's a nice felt boy. I don't think he's overeaten. He's taking
his
the professional.
Dad's doing that for him. His dad seemed to be doing.
He owns a fucking plumbing company, and that's not even a joke. It's real.
I would have assumed Waste Management, to be completely honest.
No, that's his manager in the fedora. Miles, what do you think on this game?
I actually just got a lasagna DoorDash to me, and inside of it, there was this Post-it note that just says, James and Andrew, rest in peace. I would not advise betting against this guy or his family at any point. I love the Giants here. I'm excited to see what DeVito does. Let's go Giants, baby.
Let's go Giants.
Okay, no brainer, because I don't want to die. Yeah. I don't want to end up in a landfill. So no brainer to the entire DeVito family.
Yep, obviously a no-brainer. While we're at it, we'll take his touchdown total over. We'll take his interception under. We'll take his passing yards over. We'll take his rushing
I
yards
also feel like
over.
whoever's leading in sacks on the Saints, there's somebody in with a crowbar halfway through the game is going to come in and hit him in the knee and just disappear. We'll never see him again.
I hope it's not Rashee Rice. Anyways, moving on to the next game. And by the way, I don't think the Saints are like really that good. They're not deserving of a 6 point. They're like one of those teams who's like, in no circumstances does this team deserve to be a 6 point favorite for anything in the NFL, not this season. Moving on to the next 12 o'clock game, a really, really interesting one. The Chicago Bears are taking on the Browns. The Browns just beat the Jags despite giving up 27 points to Trevor Lawrence, who was a surprise active for the game. High ankle, always 0 weeks or 3 weeks, and it's never anywhere in between. And that's what we saw for the Jags in Jacksonville. They still won. The Browns have 3 tackles now. They just lost 2 tackles back to back. They were already out there starting right tackle, Conklin from Michigan State. And then DeJuan Jones came in. He looked great. He's out for the season with a knee surgery. Jed, who has not been playing great on the left side, is out. They have a lot of really, really good talent on the interior part of the line. They had a surplus preseason. That's why they traded Pierre Strong over to, or they traded for Pierre Strong for an excess tackle that they were probably going to have to release anyway to bolster up their running back room. He's looking pretty all right, by the way. But a lot of big cluster injuries here for the Browns. On the other side of the football, we have the Bears and we have Montez Sweat, who the Bears traded for inexplicably this season, playing themselves out of like probably the 2nd or 3rd overall draft pick. Montez Sweat for the Bears has 3.5 sacks in his last 3 games this season. By the way, Justin Fields, Matt Eberflus went from like super red hot seat to are maybe going to be the future of the organization. So maybe good job out of the Bears organization being patient with these guys and letting them progress and giving them all the benefit of the doubt before they decide if they want to move on or not. Now we're thinking like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Justin Fields next season as opposed to Caleb Williams and the rest of this Bears roster is kind of how I'm feeling right now. And for all of those reasons, I'm going to take the Bears plus 3.5. I get the Browns defense is good at home. They haven't been as dominant lately at home as a defense. They did just give up 27 points to Trevor Lawrence and this cluster injury at tackle with Joe Flacco, who I love. Listen to me. I love Joe Flacco, but he's not going to be mobile enough without any tackles blocking for him. So that's why I'm going to take the Bears and Montez Sweat to take over the game. James, what say you?
Yeah, if I had to lean, I'd lean there with you. This is a game that I think is priced correctly. Like I think this is probably the best of the week. I think they nailed this line. So I honestly just don't have any opinions on it. I wish I did.
Okay, brilliant out of James. The first time we've disagreed, so that makes me feel good about this one at least. Ryan Perio, what do you think?
I'm going to pass on this game. It's both of these teams. See, it's just when you think they're out, the Bears come back in. Just when you think the Browns are hot, they go cold. It's one of those things where this season, it's just both of these teams are just absolutely from week to week different teams. I'm going to lay off of this game.
It's been a consistency issue, and that we talk about it all the time. I always like taking that plus money. James always likes taking the money line. I like taking the plus points sometimes, and I just feel like this is a 50-50 game, so I'm going to take those points in this instance. Andrew, what are you taking?
In the dog pound, Justin Fields walking in, feeling good about himself, throwing a couple of games. I'm going Browns. I'm going hard. I'm heavy. Are you wacko for Flacco? Because I am.
I'm wacko for Flacco.
Seriously, the Browns will go defensive touchdown. I'm betting it. Anytime defensive touchdown in this game, I'm betting it. I'm taking the Browns. I'm feeling good. Kareem Hunt, Jerome Ford, my man David, the Burning Man, and Njoku. Let's go. Let's do this.
I love it out of you. So we disagree with each other, but at the same time, somehow I do agree with that take. Miles, what do you think on this game?
I have zero thoughts on this one, man. These are two teams that very all over the place all season. Just when you start to have faith in either one of them going either direction, they come around and surprise you. So maybe a better game than you would think just by looking at those two teams, but not one that I want to put money on.
Moving on to the Falcons and the Panthers. The Falcons just lose to the Bucks. They fall from the 4 seed to the 10 seed in the NFC. So they were in, and now they're all the way out. Probably pretty heartbreaking for them. Panthers get slammed by the Saints, who, like we just said, were breaking a 3-game losing streak. Saints haven't been good. I don't think they're good, in my opinion. And their record would kind of indicate the same thing. And they have the death grip on last place in the league, it feels like, with just 1 win so far. And guess who has that draft pick? The Bears. And that's just how fast a narrative can flip in the NFL. Like 3 weeks ago, where we were talking about Eberflus getting fired and then moving on from Justin Fields. 3 weeks later, look at us now. Eberflus, Justin Fields, future of the team, and they have the first overall draft pick along with their own first draft pick going into next season. So Bears could look scary now that they have Montez Sweat signed to a long-term contract. But moving back to the Panthers and the Falcons, the Falcons are 3-point favorites at Carolina. I have no thoughts on any of the gambling lines. James, what do you have thoughts on?
This one's on. I'm taking a nap. No shot. Not even. Don't even want to touch it.
That's not the spirit.
Push it away.
Ryan,
Push it away. Push it away. Throw it in the trash. Go back to where you came. Don't watch it. Please,
are you
God.
I'm talking to minorities right now? What is happening?
Did you just become it sounded like you became the voice of Donald, or the ghost of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
When you went into that character.
It's gonna be a huge disappointment.
Now you sound like Trump having a stroke. This is all over the place.
Why is Trump so sarcastic?
Ivanka, it's not a bad idea to sleep with your dad. No.
Ryan Perio, that's enough out of you, James. I'm glad I apologize for bringing up Donald.
Last 5 minutes of James has been way more entertaining than this game will ever be. Like, this is probably, outside of the Raiders Vikings game last week, this will be the absolutely most miserable game to watch. But I think Atlanta is going to fire Arthur Smith at this point. I think he's shown that they've got a wealth of talent on that roster. He's done absolutely nothing with it, and I think you'll see a coaching change in Atlanta. It's going to be just all Atlanta, but it's probably going to be just 10 points. So I'm going to lay off of it.
Brilliant, Ryan Perio. Mr. Andrew, what do you think?
This is a loser leaves town game. Like, I don't want anything with this. If you're going to bet on this game, the karma's going to push, right? This is going to be a game where it's going to be tied. All of a sudden, the Falcons kick a field goal and you push, or it moves 3.5 and kick a field goal and you lose. Like, I'm not touching this game. It's easily the worst football of the week. At least the Raiders and the Chargers have like some big names and, funny coaches that do weird things. But I mean, yeah. I'm staying away from this game.
Miles, what are you thinking?
Guys, is the point of this podcast to be entertained or to make money? Because the no-brainer obvious bet on this game is the Atlanta Falcons are going to crush the Carolina Panthers. I don't understand. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to even look like football. Just at some point, they're going to accidentally either put it through the uprights or cross the goal line enough times. And the Carolina Panthers have proven that they are not capable of that. So absolute no-brainer. Atlanta Falcons -3.
I kind of like it. I kind of like it, Miles. I don't blame you for that. That's the way I guess I would lean if I had to. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going in to Green Bay to play the Packers. They're used to hanging out in sunny Florida, and they're shipping up to the Midwest in December to play in the frozen tundra of Green Bay. The Bucks are now in command of the NFC South. We all recommended Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers plus money because if you have Baker Mayfield and plus money, you probably should put $2 on Baker Mayfield because that just always seems to be how things go. The Packers are clinging to the 7th seed in the NFC, coming off of a loss to Tommy DeVito and the Giants. Jordan Love was 25 of 39 for 218 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception last week. His worst game in several games, probably since the bye week. The worst game out of Jordan Love. So do we see his rookie peak and now we're seeing the sophomore slump? Or was it just one bad game? I don't care because if you give me Baker Mayfield and that plus money, I'm going to take Baker Mayfield in that plus money, and I'm going to take the Buccaneers plus 3.5. So I'm taking both the money line and the spread. James, what are you taking?
A balmy 40 degrees in Green Bay for this game. We've got Baker Mayfield. We've got plus money. That means we're rolling with it. Give me that plus 150.
I love it. Get that place rocking like Norman, Oklahoma. Mr. Ryan Perry, what do you think on this one?
Give me the Tampa Bay Baconeers.
We love.
I think Green Bay's, they've got some real dysfunction going on with their offense. They're late in the Giants game. They looked very rattled. I think Tampa Bay is going to start blitz heavy against Jordan Love because he seemed to really struggle against pressure on Monday night. And I wonder if that's just something that more teams are going to start keying on down the stretch as he just really, really looked lost late in that game against the Giants.
Yeah, maybe there is a book out on him. I don't know. Well, I don't know about that. I just trust in Baker Mayfield to keep it close. That's all. Andrew, what do you think?
I love the over this game.
Okay.
Absolutely love the over. The Buccaneers defense is pretty soft. They give up a lot of points. The Packers defense is beat up. They also give a lot of points. I'm tempted to go a Buccaneers over parlay, but I've watched a lot of Baker recently, and it's just I get nervous when it comes on the stretch on like a 3rd and long for him not to just hold on the ball too long. And someone Green Bay has those ends with like long grabby hands. I'd rather not. So I'll just stick with the over, root for points, and if Baker wins, I'll take it because I love my man.
Yeah, I love Baker too, and I love this matchup, right? Because the Packers can't stop the run. And we all know that if Baker Mayfield has a run game, he's best off of play action, getting loose, getting out, hitting Mike Evans deep, stuff like that. And he's going to stay ahead of schedule. I don't think he's going to get way behind off schedule in a lot of these plays on 3rd and long. I think Rachaad White probably has a pretty damn decent game here, especially if it is going to be relatively warm there in Green Bay for this time of year. Miles, what do you think?
Unlike Andrew, the only thing that makes me nervous about Baker Mayfield is the way he makes me feel inside. I asked if I could get on it last week, and if there's room, I am back on the Baker bandwagon once again this week.
I was going to say this podcast loves Baker Mayfield a little bit too much for probably most people, but hey, sorry about it. I love the man. I was hanging out with him not too long ago at the Texas State Fair when he came and talked.
You and Pat McAfee, right? You guys were basically a throuple, just walking around the fair, holding hands and eating corn dogs next to Big Tex.
Literally best friends. I asked them if they'd be on the show. They haven't gotten back to me yet, but subscribe to see them on the show
any day
very
now.
Soon. Yeah, any day now.
Maybe as early as next week. You never know.
You really never know. Now that I have a big TV, I'm going to send it to Baker, and I'm hoping that impresses him. Moving on to the Texans going in to the Titans to play a game of football. CJ Stroud very likely out. We've seen a couple people recover from a concussion and become active after it, but you can kind of tell some concussions are, at least I feel like I can. Some of the concussions you see, you're like, that didn't really look like much. Feels like he just got like kind of popped abruptly and more of a getting your bell run sort of situation. Not going to have any symptoms the next day. And then sometimes you see CJ Stroud get his head kind of bounced off the turf as your rookie superstar quarterback. even though you are still in the hunt, still on the bubble, I don't see the Texans rushing him back. And even if they do, unfortunately, I think this offense is very, very different with Tank Dell out. I think we saw that even when CJ Stroud was healthy early on in the game. And I think we also saw, him struggle in the rain a little bit. But that's kind of the trajectory of the team. Once Tank Dell started to come on, the offense started to come on. And now I'm thinking that was less of a coincidence and more of just a factor of like Tank Dell being really fucking good at football. I think is what we're kind of all learning over the course of the past couple of weeks. The Titans coming off of a historic come from behind victory, down 14 points with less than 3 minutes to go on the clock. Will Levis, one of his best games of his career, 23 of 38, 327 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception in that record-breaking come from behind victory against the Dolphins. It will be a short week of rest for them. I am going to lay off of this one. The line has it Titans favored by 2.5 points. I have no leaning either way. James, what do you have?
Yeah, this is the battle for who gets to claim the Houston Oilers for their throwback jerseys. I'm very intrigued to watch this one. I actually think if Davis Mills starts, I don't think the Texans are going to fare too bad from that. He's kind of a question mark in my book. Didn't play a lot at Stanford due to the COVID season. Looked okay. Was a 3rd-round pick. I'm kind of interested to see how he goes, but I think it's a coin flip. And so you know what that means. Taking the plus money,
baby.
And we're taking the Texans.
Taking that plus money with the Houston Texans. They've lost some really bad games this year with CJ Stroud. So I don't know. I don't know about that. That's the only thing keeping me off of it. Will Levis not been super impressive either, his whole body of work. But okay, taking the plus money. Ryan, what are you taking?
I am probably going to lean towards the Titans if CJ Stroud doesn't go. Davis Mills has been somebody I've watched for the last 2 years, and his problem is he sails balls constantly. His throws are high. He doesn't give his receivers a real opportunity to come down with those balls. So I don't see this offense really moving with him behind the helm. We also lost Nico Collins on the first play of that game against the Jets. So even with Tank Dell kind of